own waters? Are you ready to meet people you love and adore? Brilliant. Well, meet someone that I love and adore first. This is my good friend Tom Huddleston from TimeOut magazine. And he's going to be chatting to our guest tonight. I'm going to pass you over to him.
Cheers, Lynn. As Lynn said, my name's Tom. I work for TimeOut, but far more importantly, I do the Q&As here every year, which is considerably more fun.
Yeah.
I don't think I need to introduce the people that we're going to speak to this evening. We've seen them all do amazing work on the big screen this afternoon. So please welcome Catherine Coulson, Lenny Von Dohlen, and Phoebe Augustine. So with it being the 20th anniversary of Fire Walk With Me, I think I'm going to ask some questions about that, but it's always good to start with a series, and I'm going to start with Catherine. Thanks so much for coming back. There's a microphone there, by the way, okay, which I think you're probably going to have to share between all three of you. So yes, thanks so much for coming back. I want to start with a question for you to take it right back to the beginning. We all know the story about David Lynch, and I'll test my log with every branch of knowledge. I don't think I've ever heard how you reacted when he actually came to you, what was it, 15, 20 years after the first suggestion of this, and said, this is actually going to happen. I mean, did you believe that it would actually happen? Do you think he was crazy?
I never think anything David Lynch says is crazy, of course. But I think it was about 13 years maybe after we finished Eraserhead, David called on the phone, and it was a message on my machine which I saved. In those days we had little cassettes in our phone machines, and it said, "Hey Kath, are you ready to do The Log Girl? I got this show with ABC." And I was like, what? And so I called him back, and he said, I got this show, I want to put you in it. I want you to play the log girl with their glasses and a ponderosa pine log. And it's going to be called Twin Peaks, and but you can't tell anybody. So I said, well, I don't think she's a log girl anymore. I was borderline, you know. So I said, not borderline like diagnosis. So I said that I would be happy to, but I thought we should call her something else. So we arrived at the Log Lady. That's how that was born. Now I'm thinking we should call her the Log Person. But anyway, so he snuck me into the pilot because he didn't think the network would approve of the character named the Log Lady, or the Log Girl, or the Log Person. He just thought it was too odd a concept for the network. So we got into the pilot, and I flipped a light switch. The rest is history. Here I am. It's so wonderful to be back. I just love you guys. They're the nicest fans in the world. And I just want to show you, because it's getting a little warm, this wonderful woman named Saffron made these gloves and gave them to me today, and they look like a log. And I'm only taking them off because it's about 100 degrees up here. Thank you.
Well, Phoebe, the next question is for you anyway. I just wanted to know sort of roughly the same thing, how you got involved in Twin Peaks, who called you, how you felt when you got it.
I got it in a very normal way. My agent setting up the audition and me going in, and gosh, I'm trying to remember what the audition was like. I don't think I read lines.
No.
There weren't any lines to read, right? No.
He never reads lines. He just talks to you.
He talks to you and asks you about yourself, and I don't think there was any monologue or anything like that. Just asking you about yourself, and you're just talking. And my picture that you take, you know, and that your agent sent over, had my maiden name on it, Phoebe Augustine. And I went in and I told him, well, that's what my picture says, but I just got married, so I'm going to use my married name now. And he said, no. That's how much he controls that his vision, you know. He liked the name Augustine, and I think I did get it just from talking to him, and he liked my last name, or me, or something. So, and I was very excited, because I was already a big fan.
Yeah.
You want to tell them the story about you and Cheryl Lee?
Oh.
Yes, tell us the story about you and Charlie.
It's pretty short. So, after the audition, or whatever you want to call it, they kept me there, and they kept Cheryl Lee there, and they said, okay, you guys, come here, we need to ask you something. So Cheryl Lee and I were standing there, and they said, okay, so we have 2 parts and 2 girls, and we just need to find out, do either one of you have a problem with nudity? And I don't know, I said, I think I might. And she said, I have absolutely no problem with nudity. Yeah.
And again, the rest is history.
I don't know.
Lenny, obviously the show was kind of something of a hit by the time that you joined, but I read, or I heard recently an interview with you where you said you actually knew nothing about it. So, I mean, how was it for you? Had you already got the part? You'd already gone to a casting, and you actually watched the show. What did you actually think when you saw it? And it was this insane thing.
Yeah, I didn't know. Thanks. It was completely new to me. I mean, I'd heard of it, but I'd never seen it. And so they sent the VHS tapes, Davey and myself, up to the house, and I watched everything there was to watch, and I saw these 2 gorgeous things, and thought, you know, this is not what television was the last time I tuned in, and and signed me up. Yeah, no, that's true. I didn't know it, and so I was very excited to try to enter that world and be a contributor, a little small cog in the wheel.
How was the character described to you? I mean, David Lynch was kind of coming and going by that point. Do you know how much he was involved in the creation and development of that character? And
I know Harley Payton was very involved, and Mark Frost, and David certainly, you know, supervised all the decisions. But they were very good and introduced me, or got me in touch with the Homeward Bound Society. And there's these people who, it was their voices I heard when I was doing that part in my head. And they shared with me over the phone, very frankly and very intimately, about what they go through. So I wanted to do them justice, or at least, you know, have them in the forefront of my heart when I did.
Harold Smith always felt to me like a David Lynch character, however much he was involved in it. He feels, in his kind of slightly voyeuristic way, he feels a bit like Jeffrey Beaumont Jeffrey Beaumont from Blue Velvet, not Jeffrey Dahmer. That would be a whole different character. The lead character in Blue Velvet. There's a certain sort of.
I should have known that.
That's what there's no trivia quiz.
No. Well, there is later, but you don't have to take part. Well, passing back to Catherine and Phoebe then, I mean, was there a feeling when you shot the pilot that this was going to be something extraordinary and different?
I don't remember realizing at the time that this was, I knew it was extraordinary because, first of all, I had just gotten the log that day, and David had auditioned quite a few logs. So when the actual Ponderosa Pine arrived, oozing sap, I knew that it was something special because I had to hold it for so long, and that I would develop exceptionally strong forearms were it continued. So I knew it was extraordinary, but we had no idea that anybody would ever watch it, which is the same feeling we had when we did Eraserhead so many years before. No one's ever going to see this. No one's ever going to do their hair like that. You know, that kind of thing. So when the network picked it up as a series after we did the pilot, it was an amazing event. We were all like, whoa, really? They're gonna, and I just watched episode 11 with you. My God, it was great. I mean, it's such good television. It was really well done. I'd kind of forgotten how extraordinary it was at the moment. So I don't think any of us really thought it would happen. And I remember the night we screened the pilot in this big Academy theater, and we were all sitting in the lobby, and David came up to us and said, guess what? The network wants us to make more. And we were like, really? And I thought about my forearms, and I thought, well, okay, as the years have passed, of course, the log has dried out, as have I. But it's a lot more manageable now. But I digress. Yes.
Same question. How did you feel? I should also ask, at the same time, we have to talk about the bridge and shooting that scene on the bridge. So what was it? What are your abiding memories of that day shooting on the bridge? And also, you know, how did you feel when you saw the pilot cut together? Did it you know, blow your mind a little bit?
Yes. So I remember that day on the bridge, being cold and just hoping I would get it right. You know, I knew something terrible had happened to me, and just mainly wanting to get it right. But then I don't know if you know what you probably know what it's like when you're filming something. It looks like there's just one person. You imagine there's a camera on the other side, but there's actually a whole crowd of people at the end of the bridge behind the camera doing their different jobs. Hair people, costume people, whatever, lighting people, sound people. And one of the people in that crowd, take after take, I just kept seeing that face every time just jump out at me from the crowd. And it was frightening to me, this person. You know what I'm talking about, right? I don't know, maybe you know, because I think I've told this a couple of times, but it still amazes me, just this face, and it was Frank. And when, between takes one time, standing over the side, warming up, I asked, could I just talk to David for a second? So they sent him over. Yes, Phoebe, what is it? And I pointed out to Frank and I said, that guy is really scaring me, and I'm just wondering, does he have to be there? Because he's really scaring me. And he told me, he's the bad guy, but don't tell anyone. So I guess he has a way of telling you things and then telling you not to tell anyone, which is really hard to do, but I didn't tell anyone. But I know y'all know who that was.
Did you get much of a description of the character of Ronette? Because obviously she's quite blank at the beginning. She's just a victim. So did you get a character description, or did you kind of discover the character as everyone else discovered the character?
I don't think I did get a description. I just sort of make a story for yourself. You know?
And the show was an enormous success very quickly. I mean, you both had such iconic roles in it. You know, you were both so recognizable. Did you get recognized in the street? Did you have that kind of experience afterwards?
You probably did all the time.
I never took the log out in public. You know, they say you want to hide your children from the camera. So I'm not anthropomorphizing the log, but I didn't take it out in public. But I did get recognized, and I quickly learned that you don't leave the house without looking fairly clean and decent, because people do want to know about the show. I mean, that's the honor of doing it, is that people ask you all the time, what's it like, you know, how are you? I mean, even if you're picking out broccoli in the grocery store, someone will stop and talk, and that's really fun. It helped for a while to get good seats in restaurants. You know, there's a few perks. I've been acting pretty much all my life, and then suddenly I was a kind of cult figure. And so that was sort of fun, you know, to see your picture on the front of USA Today, or, you know, wow, that's us. when we first arrived at the very first affiliate dinner. Have I told this story here? I hope not. The flash bulbs went off, and I was like, what do you think's going on? And my husband said, oh, I have a feeling this might be for you. Because, you know, we're driving up, and I said, oh, we should have washed the car. I mean, I just didn't get it. You know, we didn't get it until Roseanne Barr, who was also on ABC, who was on that show, Roseanne, walked across the parking lot and screamed, it's the log lady. And that was when I went, oh, wow, okay. So it was fun to be recognized. And now, you know, what's amazing is that's why I always carry this with me, because is that, not really always, but is that people still want to talk about it, and that's why you're here, and that's what makes it so much fun for us, is that we get to share the progress of this. Even though there haven't been any more episodes, we can all imagine what could happen.
Lenny, you were already kind of fairly recognizable by the time of Twin Peaks because of Electric Dreams, which I'm sure a lot of people love, and Tender Mercies, which I really, really love, and if anyone here hasn't seen it, you really have to go and see it. It's an extraordinary movie. So were you kind of used to being recognized, and did that continue into Twin Peaks? Did that happen again? Did that keep happening?
Yeah, well, it was different, I guess, with because people were always sort of a bit taken back to see me outside. You know? And, that was fun. You know? And I think anyone who contemplates getting on the freeways in LA flirts with agoraphobia, because it's the only sensible thing to do. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Did you know when you got the role that Harold would die so quickly?
I did.
Okay.
I didn't know how. I just knew that there was he would have 6 or 7 episodes and meet his have his demise. So I had bookends.
Right.
In between which I could create this life.
Was it quite an emotional experience for you to kill off that character, because it's a tragic thing when he dies. You really feel it.
Oh, good. Well, the alternative would suck. I had this idea, and Catherine's a much better friend of David's than most people, but I had the effrontery to call him on the night before that scene where Harold meets his end, and I said I had this great idea. I'd seen the script, and he hangs himself. And I said, what if the camera comes into this apartment and you hear this sound and you realize that the gas is on, and you find all the orchids kind of slumped over, and then you find him with them, you know, his prized possessions. And David left a message saying, Lenny, never come up with a great idea the night before a shoot. We built the rafter, and we gotta hang you. You're on. But in fact, it wasn't me, it was someone else's legs.
Oh, okay.
You know, but my spirit was there.
Your lonely soul was there.
Yeah.
Back to Catherine, if that's okay. You, as Lenny said, you were close to David on a personal level. Did you get a sense towards the end of the show's life that he was frustrated with the way the ratings were falling to pieces, and that did he know that the series was going to die, and was that quite a pain?
I don't think he ever thought of it as dying. I think he just thought he would make a mini-series that would have a beginning, middle, and an end. That was his original thought. And then he liked the long form of television, longer than a feature film, but not something that would go on forever. So he didn't really plan on it going on a lot longer, and he had Wild at Heart to do. So he left it in capable hands. And but I think he felt that he had run the course of the story. Pretty much. He wanted to tell a story about this town and about these people. And so when it was over, I think David was ready he had always thought it would be over, probably a little sooner than it was over. But then the demand for the prequel, which we're going to see, right, was so strong. How did these people come to be? That he really got into the making of the prequel, of Fire Walk with Me. So I think he's a guy who lives in the now. Let's put it that way. And I think his meditation, and you all know about the David Lynch Foundation now, he's doing this amazing work with veterans and abused people with transcendental meditation. That kind of way of thinking. He has never missed a meditation since we started in the early 70s when we were very small children. He stays really much in the present. And I think that's how he was with Twin Peaks as well. I have a couple of notes from David. Can I give him right now, just real quick, Tom?
That would be lovely.
Oh, I called him from the Seattle airport right before I left, and he answered. And he said he was Skyping somebody in Ohio or Iowa, but I said, I'm on my way, and he said, oh, give them all my best and thank them for coming. And I love Twin Peaks fans, they're so loyal. He said, I just want to say that the smell of tar is a glorious smell, fresh tar. And then he asked me about this restaurant that I used to work in when we were doing Eraserhead. It was called Barbecue Heaven. And he would come and fix the roof with tar and get a free grilled cheese sandwich and fries. And he asked me how long he had done that. And I said, as long as it took to fix the roof. Quite a few grilled cheese sandwiches. So he just wanted that memory. He said he had just done some labels for Dom Perignon. And there's an interview with him in a magazine in America called Food and Wine, which you can probably get online. It's the Thanksgiving issue, and it's an interview with David talking about eating this green soup that he makes. I mean, it's so David Lynch. It's a gourmet magazine, right? Okay, and he's not. He and his wife Emily have a new baby girl named Lula, who's the best thing ever, he said. Please call when you get back to tell me everything about Twin Peaks UK. He really wants to know about everybody and everything and what people are interested in, and just to say hello to everybody.
Thanks a lot for that. That was quite special. From tar and grilled cheese to Dom Perignon, it's a life. So I just wanted to ask all three of you really, how did you first learn that the movie was going to happen? How did you feel about it, and were you pleased to know that you were going to be in it? Start with whoever. Lenny, do you want to start with that?
I was thrilled. I was doing 3 or 4 other films at the time, and I remember, I only had one scene in the movie. It's a doozy, but so I was thrilled. Yeah.
So, you might know that I stopped acting quite a while ago, and my husband and I lived in LA, and then we'd run away to Alaska, and that's where we were. And when David tracked me down, or somebody did, Joanna, what's her name? Joanna Ray. Called somebody who knew I was up there, called up there, found somebody who knew me up there, knew where I was going that day. So here I am at the chiropractor's office, in the room where you get your adjustment and stuff, and the receptionist comes in, Phoebe? I said, yes. She said, David Lynch is on the phone for you. Couldn't take it up in the front. So I just went behind her desk, hello? And it was David. And we talked for 10 or 15 minutes maybe, because I had sort of run away. And he just talked me into coming back. And I told him, I said, it's only ever just bad stuff happens to me. It's always so bloody, ugly and everything. And he's, okay, how about if I give you an angel? Will you do it if I give you an angel? And so I said, oh yeah, okay, yeah, good. So.
I mean, the character is obviously a much bigger deal in Fire Walk With Me than she ever was in the series. So how did you kind of go about developing and exploring the person that she was before she went into a coma?
Well, I had watched the series, so I already kind of had an idea in my head of who she was, and it was just already there. But you know, it was. I'll tell you, it was. Well, I mean, maybe it's a question you're going to ask later or something, but it was kind of creepy just
Right.
being on set. Like you would walk around. I remember walking around. Was it in the valley somewhere? Yeah, a warehouse or something with the sets built in it, and you'd just be walking around. Oh, look at that! A table with dead piglets on it. You know, it'd just be. And I don't even think those were ever. Were they in it?
I don't remember.
I come from a David Lynch experience with little chickens, you know, just cut them up like regular chickens. And I was under the table making the chicken bleed. So, you know, anything's possible.
I think he was doing that. Maybe he was doing that the thing with the parts, some puzzle kit.
The kit,
or something
the chicken kit
at
and
that
fish
time.
kit.
Oh, the chicken kit, yeah.
I thought maybe he was doing a
Big
kit.
kit.
Maybe I don't know, but it's that's just what it was like. Did you know?
Was I'm barely in Fire Walk With Me, and I know that I was hired for a week, and I was very happy to go back up to Washington, where we had done a lot of the exteriors of the show, and I spent one whole night howling at the moon and weeping in this cabin that had just two sides to it, and they were shooting the log lady crying and sobbing, and he said, "Can you get snot?" And, you know, it's not easy to manufacture snot on call like that. So and it was hours. It was like 3 in the morning. It was really, really cold, and I howled and howled and howled at the moon. And it's not in the movie, is it? No, I don't think it is. In fact, am I in the movie?
Oh, yes.
I'm barely in it. Yeah, that's like this weird little, I don't remember. I just remember the snot part. I don't remember a lot of the shooting of it, but I know that what happened was they were running out of time. And Richard Beamer is a good friend of mine, and he called me up and said, "I'm not in it anymore. They still have to pay me because they hired me, but there wasn't time to shoot his scenes." And I think what happened is they had shot a lot, and then they had to cut it way down, which is why I think I'm not howling at the moon in the movie, not because it wasn't good. But I don't remember the actual call to do it, except that it was a week's work, and that was a nice thing in those days.
I'm guessing then, if you don't mind keeping the mic just for 2 seconds, maybe you don't remember the speech that you gave in Fire Walk With Me, because I mean, for me, it's one of the key moments in the movie, and I'm guessing probably for a lot of other people who see it as well. Maybe if you watch it,
I think it was very significant for me too, but I also live in the moment. I do remember that. I remember learning it, but I haven't seen Fire Walk With Me for a long time, so I am looking forward to seeing it again, because I don't remember, but I know it was meaningful.
How did this is a question for all of you. Did you go to some kind of opening night party or something? Was there a screening? Do you remember seeing the finished film, and do you remember what you thought?
Were you at the DGA?
Yes.
That first screening, shall I tell it?
Yes.
All right. I went not knowing what to expect, because I only, I don't think I even read the script. I just read Harold and Laura's scene. And so it was a complete surprise to me. And this is a place where they have a lot of screenings in LA, and David was introduced, and he went on stage, as directors always do, to make their preliminary comments, and he was in his ubiquitous blue blazer and khakis and white shirt, and he reached into his pocket and pulled out this piece of paper, and he read the first paragraph from the Gettysburg Address and sat down. And so everyone was kind of, and then the movie began. It was kind of wonderful. I mean, what do you say? He already said it. It's up there, So I thought that was kind of brilliant.
Did you go to the screen?
I don't think
I remember that they had a limousine pick us up. I remember that part. That was like, whoa, I don't have to take the dirty Volvo. And the PR people, it was like, I can't remember the name of the company that produced it, but they were very jazzed about it. And then some big event happened in the world. Do you remember? Something, I don't remember the date of the release, but something else happened. You know, it's kind of like a wag the dog thing. So something happened and it kind of didn't get the attention that they wanted it to get. A war started, I don't know, something happened. And so it was a disappointment at the box office at the very beginning, right? It didn't do so well. And I remember those publicity people really being disappointed. And I felt like I personally had let them down. If only they'd had me howl at the moon. But it was just, it was kind of after that screening, which was amazing, I mean, it's a really kind of frightening film. And Sheryl Lee was obsessed because she had this pimple on her chin and it wouldn't go away for the whole shoot. You remember that? Oh, anyway, now that's all you'll see tonight. But anyway, it was a very exciting film for all of us to see. And now I think what's happened is that people are getting it. Now it's coming back around and it's being appreciated. Really, maybe for the first time.
The film was absolutely savaged when it came out. I remember people called it, at Cannes it was absolutely brutalized, and people say it was exploitative and misogynistic. And I mean, have any of you seen it recently? You haven't gone back to it? Because it's an extraordinary film.
I know that I have stipulation in my will that my daughter can't see it till 20 years after my death.
Okay. That's fair enough. I'm going to open up to audience questions in a second, but I'd just like to end traditionally by asking each one of you to just recall a moment, whether it's good or bad or scary or funny or just something from Twin Peaks that leaps out at you whenever you think back to those days, something that kind of immortalizes that experience in your head. Whoever wants to start, go nuts.
First to get it over with.
Sure.
I remember Deepak trying to hurry David along because he was taking too long sitting in the little cabin with us, with me and Shirley and what are their character names? Leo and Jacques, telling us stories for a really long time.
Can you remember any of the stories?
I remember one about some Russian neighbors or something. I hope I'm remembering this right. And he would look out of his window, and he was looking out the window, and he saw this little kid running, and then disappear, and then appear again, continue like just he went in another dimension for a few seconds. Stories like that.
Good story.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot that we were there to work for a little bit.
So that's what the assistant director was having trouble with. Yeah.
Right, because we were there to work. We were just in there for a really long time.
I remember David drawing this little tattoo on my leg, and it was like two little peaks, and it was, I think it was when I was abducted by aliens, and there was all this oil with like matted hair. Was that in the show? Is it fun? Is it in the show? Yeah. I haven't seen it for a while. I can hardly wait to go home and watch it. I've got the box set, so I'm going to watch it. And it was the same kind of oily substance that we used in underneath the radiator in Eraserhead, the lady in the radiator. Oh, it was tar. Oh my God, there's a theme. That's what it is. It's a tar theme. Okay, we'll think about this and write him a little note. But I do remember his actually drawing it and then saying, now don't wash your leg, Cap. So I didn't, because I guess they thought they might do reshoots or close-ups or something. So I had this little tattoo on my leg that he had drawn for quite a long time. And I think that's a significant memory. Do you have one, Lenny?
Yeah, well, I've told it many times because for me it so distinguishes Mr. Lynch. I was called about 6 a.m. On the day of shooting that in Fire Walk with Me, and we did not go on the floor until 2 a.m. So that's a long wait. And Cheryl and I well, she especially, because she's got so much to do, we're pretty much toast by 3:30 a.m. or whatever. And David screams across the entire studio to Deepak, the AD, Deepak, never schedule the most important scene in the movie for 3:30 a.m. Now that's how you get two very tired actors up for, a job. And then this is even more quintessential David. At the end of all of that, we did it, and it kind of, flew against the walls, and we were done, and we were jello. And out of the corner of my eye, I see a sort of tall leprechaun version of a jig, and it was David. And he was, at that hour, doing this little dance to celebrate, I guess, what had happened, that something had happened. It wasn't, right, let's move on. He was acknowledging what we were trying to do, and that's very rare. And, so is he. So,
Perfect. So I'm going to open up to questions from the audience. Have we got any? Here we go.
It's working. And you were saying yourself how you stopped acting and you moved away and sort of turned your back on that life. You'd been convinced to come back. How was it to come back into a world that you didn't really want to be part of anymore? For such a brutal part, so I imagine it would be surreal anyway, but you'd already decided you didn't want to be part of that. How was it coming back into it?
Did you hear the question?
Yeah. Does anyone need me to repeat that question?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It was essentially Phoebe had left acting, so how did she feel returning to acting, particularly for such a brutal part?
I think that I would have regretted it if I didn't. So I'm really glad that he talked me into it. And how was it? Gosh. I was glad to be there, weren't you? I mean, I was glad to be there. So, how was it? I stuck around for a couple more years and made some friends, did a little more work, and then true to form ran away again. But yeah, it gave me a few more years there. So yeah, it wasn't that bad. I mean, I maybe make it sound terrible. It wasn't that bad.
I just wonder how the two women respond to the comment that you made, which is that a lot of people describe Fire Walk with Me and indeed the whole series as deeply misogynist.
This is true. I personally think it's a ridiculous accusation to throw at the film particularly, but how do you feel about accusations that Fire Walk with Me in particular, and in some ways the series, and David Lynch's work as a whole, in fact, has been classed as misogynistic?
I am a feminist, and I've lived through the women's movement, and I have to say that my vision of what David was doing, this is almost embarrassing, it never occurred to me. But I need to see it again now as an adult with a perspective, with a daughter in her 20s, and see what I think. I don't really know. At the time doing it, I didn't feel that way, and I know that he isn't at all. I mean, he's not a misogynist in any way, but he does have a peculiar perspective, I guess. And I guess it could be interpreted that way, but I haven't, to be honest, I haven't seen it that way. I'll be curious to see the film again, and then we can talk, but I don't know it to be that. And that's kind of odd, but I had never thought of it. Do you have any?
So the question was inspired by that wonderful scene with the tea and the cookies but no cake. Which character did Catherine enjoy working with? Or, I mean, which actor and also which character?
It was a really good ensemble. You were right about that. Everybody really gave a lot. Leslie Linka Glatter directed it. I remember that. And Mike Onkeen and I had been friends and done another film together. And he was very encouraging during that time. It was a very tedious scene to shoot because it's around a table and you have to do all these over the shoulders and all this coverage. It's not easy. And we repeated the scene over and over and over again. And I'm sure if David had done it, he would have shot it from a ladder, you know, up from above. But Leslie shot it pretty much the traditional way. I wish I'd seen that today. I'd love to have seen it on a big screen. So I think Mike Onkeen was probably, of all the people that whom I already really cared about, he was the most encouraging, hang in there kind of thing. Because we had to, you know, making a film or a television show is a lot of repetition and maintaining. I didn't have to worry about snot, so that was helpful. But I think, yeah, I would say probably Mike Onkeen, who really, does he ever show up anymore?
He was in The Descendants, but he didn't have any lines.
Oh, he's a wonderful actor. I was watching episode 11 with you today. I think he's amazing. Yeah, he's a good guy. Thanks.
There was another. There we go.
If you guys could choose any character in the Twin Peaks series to play other than the ones that you play, who would you go for?
The question was if these three actors could choose a character that wasn't their own character to play in Twin Peaks, who would it have been? And I don't think we have to stick to, you know, gender and age. I think you can cross those boundaries. Just who do you think you would have had fun playing? Lenny, take it away.
Does anyone know right off the bat?
Lucy!
Yeah. Phoebe can answer.
I think I'd want to be Ronette. I mean, if I look that good in a slip, that's who I'd want to be. It was always my husband's favorite character too. He couldn't believe I was actually going to spend time with Phoebe. So yeah, I think Ronette. Yeah, I like the coma thing, you know.
Phoebe, can you expand on your choice just briefly?
Oh, she's just so cute and sweet and funny, and it's the opposite of what I got to do. So.
Yeah. I suppose anybody who spends a lot of time outdoors, I think someone like that. Michael Horst.
Yeah. I think you could have pulled that off. Any more?
Over here. What's your memories of working on the site, Twin Peaks? Well, especially on Reunion, and Phoebe, would you like to be a part of that?
It's just a question about Psych, the TV kind of homage, yeah.
She didn't know about it.
Oh, wow, I'll have to see it.
I have seen it, but it was last year. It was quite late. Who was actually? Were any of you three involved in it?
We were in it.
Oh, okay. So how was it being back together?
Catherine, you played your character, didn't you?
Well, I played the Woods woman. It was this television show called Psych, and the lead actor in that had just loved Twin Peaks and loved David Lynch. He said when he was a very little boy, he used to watch it, which really endeared me to him. No, but they wrote an episode called Dual Spires, and it was a spoof, but it was also an homage to Twin Peaks. And they couldn't use certain things that the network, the people who own it now, is it Universal who owns it? NBC? I don't know. It's switched hands a lot. They couldn't use certain things, like I couldn't wear my red glasses. I couldn't have the real log. I couldn't be called the log lady, but everybody was themselves. Most people were themselves older. Well, I was myself older. I was like a grandmother of somebody, and there was a whole basket of wood in my bicycle. So that was kind of the homage. It turned out to be also a very short scene. But it was nice to do because we got to see each other. You know, that was really a nice reunion, except we missed Phoebe. But it was a good reunion.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was great to see everyone because you don't, contrary to what you might think, get to see, you know, people you really like that you worked with. So, and I got to play someone completely different than Harold Smith. So that was fun, and also being around James Roday, who at 13 was obsessed with what's the character that Bobby Briggs. So he said he dressed like him, he did everything. So this was a full circle kind of dream come true for him, and so it was good to be a part of that. Yeah.
Any more questions?
This is for Catherine. I was here a couple of years ago when you were here. It's great to see you back again.
Thank you.
But then you didn't actually, which I was quite interested in, explain about the personality of the log. I was interested to know whether you had a battle of wills with the log regarding who was the greatest star, yourself or the log? Or maybe did it complain to you if you didn't hold it right? Or did it nudge you by not getting its lines right? What was it like with this particular log?
I think we probably all heard that, but just in case, it was a question about Catherine's relationship with the log.
Working relationship.
Professional, strictly professional relationship with the log.
I would have to say it is competitive. Although I am its caregiver. It's a particularly tempestuous log. And as it lightened over the years, my feelings for it softened.
That's quite beautiful. I thought I saw someone else on this side. Oh, there's someone waving at the back there.
Yeah, I sort of a two-part question. I'm wondering from all of you if you've ever heard any stories or had an indication from David Lynch as to which direction the show might have gone in had it not been prematurely cancelled. And secondly, just very quickly to Catherine, if you still have the log.
The log is in a secure, undisclosed location. I am
Is that for
responsible.
our protection or for its?
I am responsible for the log. David gave me the log at the last episode and said, "You take it and guard it well." And I have. It's only made one appearance at an autograph signing session in Burbank, some big Hollywood something, in the fall of 2010. And I asked if I could carry it on the plane because, the carry-on regulations had changed. And I called TSA and asked them if I could carry on a log, and the man said, "The log?" He said, "Don't take a chance." First of all, with the new security regulations, it could be used as a bludgeon. Not that I would ever do that. So that was its. I actually FedExed the log, which was very scary, and I'll never do it again. I could hardly sleep having it out of my hands. The other question was what he would have done differently. There's no way of knowing because of that be here now kind of thing. I mean, he really stayed in the moment, and we don't really know that David even wanted it to go on as long as it did go on. So your guess is as good as mine.
I'd actually like to expand that question to the other two. Do you have anything? Have you kept anything from the series? A nightie or a noose? Is there anything that you've taken home and that you treasure?
Oh no! I mean, I had a jacket that says "Firewalk with Me" on it, but nothing, no kind of props or costumes or anything. No.
I have the suspenders from, so I had them from the movie, and they gave them to me to keep after that. But there had been some time between the series and the movie, so that helped me once I put those on and kind of popped in there. I was him.
In this country, we call those braces. Suspenders. It's just for stockings. You've been wearing those. That's for holding up ladies' stockings.
Oh.
If you'd had those, that would have been a whole different story. Any more? And if Lindsay's up the back there, you need to tell me when we're out of time.
She's
no?
not.
Okay, fine. We'll press on regardless. Any more? Here we go. Question.
For free actors. If they delete, now, go you repeat.
I'm sorry?
Go you now.
Yeah, no, I'll repeat it.
You repeat again all the TV series and the film.
Would you? You mean for a new series, or for the whole thing just again?
The series and the film. Today.
Yeah. Would you go back and do it again? I think is the question.
Oh, if given the chance to do it again, would you do it
Yes.
again? Oh, absolutely. Maybe with a little less violence toward women.
Yeah.
I don't know how anyone would possibly say no to that question. There was somebody over here.
I just wanted to know what made Twin Peaks different from other projects you worked on?
It's a good question. Yeah, what made this special in comparison to other things that you might have worked on before or after?
I always knew what I was going in to do on other things. I mean, even when there was a script for Twin Peaks, really, you don't know exactly what your day is going to be like. On other things I did, I would have a script and we would do it exactly, and I knew, or we would rehearse it, we'd do it. You didn't know I did a lot of screaming and getting beat up and what have you, so that's, of course, that was different for me, but it always seemed like anything could happen, really. And other jobs weren't like that.
I think for David Lynch, working for him, someone said, I think Kyle said, it's like being in a giant sandbox. And I think I've maybe told this story before. He did sometimes get up on a ladder and look down at all of us and then say, okay, you go over here and you go over here, because he is, after all, a painter. He's really a visual artist. So he would set a scene often visually, which a lot of directors don't do. And the story was less important in some ways than the effect, the emotional impact. And watching episode 11 today with you really made me realize, it's so beautifully shot. And even though Todd Holland directed that episode, David had a master hand in every episode. And it's that sense of a kind of creepy visual awareness and somebody coming up out of the frame in the corner, and the music that Angelo wrote that's so powerful and that lasts today. And David, has gotten a lot more into writing music himself now. Angelo kind of empowered him and said, look, here, you can do anything with the synthesizer. So I think that his way of working is very different than any other director. So the episodes that he directed that I was in were very different from other television shows. The episodes he didn't direct were different because the script was changing all the time as we were shooting. And the order of things was changing a lot just because it was so much so fast. And there's so many characters. Today's episode, there were so many characters I'd forgotten. How about you, Lenny? Anything different?
No, just everything we've said. It's the most collaborative of experiences, and that's something that's unheard of in American television. I don't know how it's here. I mean, you feel your investment, your contribution is encouraged, and so that's what I would say about the uniqueness of working with him.
You mentioned earlier on this idea that you had about the wilting orchids.
Yeah.
Can you remember an incident where an improvisation of yours was used in the final show?
You mean in the series?
In the series, well, in the series or in the film.
I had this idea to look at the orchids with an eyepiece, and you know, actors love props, so you know, that was sort of in lieu of my log. I had this little thing that I would look at the orchids, and so that was kind of my green umbrella. You know, it helped hook me into to the guy. Forgot the question.
That was a good answer to that question, as it was.
I just thought of something about spit. I may have told some of you this story before, but you know there's an episode where I'm chewing pitch gum, and it's really big wad, right, of gum, and then David asked me if I could spit. And I discovered this talent I didn't know I had. And I spit so far across the room that the crew applauded. So I can put that on my resume now as a skill at the bottom, along with motorcycle riding and, you know, whatever actors put, skateboarding. I can spit really far.
It's definitely a skill. I think we've probably got time for one more. Is a lady here?
I pretty much want to repeat the question that the guys from Double R Club asked us. Would you embrace the idea of getting Twin Peaks back on TV, or is it better to leave it as it is?
I was going to ask the same question to close, actually, so it's perfect timing. I mean, if someone came along, whether it was David Lynch or whether it wasn't, and said that they had the money and the inclination to kickstart Twin Peaks, and obviously Harold would have to rise from the dead.
Do a Kickstarter.
Would you be interested in going back to that world, or do you think it deserves to be left as it is?
Left as it is. I think because you can't repeat the past and you can't top it. And I think aside from the artistry of Mr. Lynch and everyone, the thing that makes, I think it's a bit like James Dean, you know, he was a great actor, but he's remembered because he died so young. And I think there's that same kind of obsession, maybe in a less tragic way. Yeah.
I would have to agree. Yeah. I guess I would be afraid that am I just being chicken? To think that, I don't mess it up. But I don't know. From listening today, I don't think he would want to go back and do another one. So really, it's not an option. Yeah, he'd have to want to do it.
David does often say there are a lot of stories left to be told about the town of Twin Peaks, but I'm not sure that he would ever want to revisit those same people. I know, I think I agree with you two that it's best left for what it is, because it does keep growing for us as we all mature and learn more about ourselves, and we watch the show and new young people come into watching it. It kind of does keep living on and changing because we're changing. You know, that's why we come back here every year. And it's why, I mean, I have to say the audiences here on this side of the ocean are so responsive to this show that I think it has to do with your own unique cultural and intellectual heritage, that you, as Eastern Europeans, as citizens of the UK, that you really have a curiosity about these people and this world and this kind of writing and this kind of filmmaking that makes it go on and on. And I don't know that anything would ever live up to what was already done if we went back and revisited those same people. I think we have to hope that David Lynch will do another film or another television show so we can see where his mind has gone, and hopefully he'll have room for 3 older white people. We'll see.
Thank you very much indeed. We'll wrap that up there. Thanks everyone for coming. I think we should all, as in previous years, give a huge round of applause and lots of whooping noises for Lindsay, who's made this happen again. Thanks to Coulson and Phoebe Augustine and Lenny Von Dohlen, and I'll see you all for the quiz.